Jaiswal, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very happy that my dear friend Tom just spoke, it seems. I missed his address because I was in some other program, but I'm very happy that he's also here. And I think earlier, my another very dear friend, family friend, Mr. Dinesh Gunawardane, I think also spoke into this program. So I'm very happy that this program is with such good dear friends. Of course, I'm also happy to know that my dear friend Dr. Abdullah from Maldives also was here, and so I'm very happy about this very interesting program. As you know, the world is passing through very difficult times for many reasons. One obviously is the after effects of pandemic, which we are all even today suffering from. And it seems that virus, as it happens with most of the viruses, is changing shape, becoming different variant, and causing even more damage. As it always happens, whenever you have a problem of a new variant coming in, you try to attack it with new vaccines. The virus tries to save itself, as all living beings do, because their basic instinct is to survive. Therefore, they change these different variants. And therefore, we are seeing second wave in India, third wave in UK, probably fourth wave in Japan. And so it's really becoming very difficult. But as a result of that, when we are suffering pandemic, and then subsequent to that, the world has realized the need for more and more global cooperation. The recently held G7 summit, in fact, focused on this more than adequately to realize how much we need to work together. The second aspect is economic issues. So health is no longer a standalone issue. It has already affected social life, economic life. And as economies which have suffered are going to take a while before they can be recovered and reach the pre-pandemic level. So economic damage is something which has to be considered as one of the important international and global issue. The third aspect, which always was there, and it's not that it has emerged as a new issue, was an issue related to climate change. And if you really look at it, all the three major issues, of course, there are many more, I will not get into all of that. We need global cooperation to fight them. And then if you want to talk about global cooperation, how do you get that cooperation? So you need some institutionalized support. We have created quite a few international organizations, most of them under the UN umbrella, to deal with all these global issues. There is UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, to deal with climate change. There is a WHO to deal with health issues. Then there's a World Bank and IMF and others who are dealing with economic issues. But even then, and of course there's the UN itself. But then the realization which is coming into the world that we are so much economically independent, rather economically interdependent. And because we are so interdependent, when somebody else coughs and sneezes, we catch the cold. This has become true. In fact, now it has really become true. It was just an old power, but now it has become really true that if somebody sneezes, we have to be very careful and get one more time vaccinated, probably. But that means the economic interdependence, the consequence of having a small little infection somewhere else can cause global pandemics, and the local action can lead to climate change, and climate change cannot be addressed without global cooperation. So all of this brings us to a very interesting scenario in which we have to work together. At a time when, in fact, this is a paradox, when the international order is no longer responsive, or the so-called institutions that we have created not as effective as they should be. And that brings us to a very interesting issue that we need interdependence, and we are already interconnected, and we cannot deal with these issues unless we come together. We must need to work and find out how these institutions can be more and more responsive and more relevant. And that brings us to the topic of reforming these institutions. The G7 did address it. G20, which is a very important grouping, which of course has all the G7 countries in any case, we'll have to deal with this. The G20 countries together account for more than 80% of the global GDP. And more than 60-65% of the global population. So they have to take the lead and must work on these important issues. Of course, we strongly believe that all the issues must be addressed only through multilateral platforms. And these multilateral platforms must be democratic, rule-based, transparent. Take example of economic issues. The world economy, if it doesn't grow, individual countries also suffer. So, growth of world economy should be the primary concern for all of us. And the growth of world economy depends on many reasons, but particularly two important elements of that is one is trade. If the global trade doesn't expand, the world economies don't expand as much. In fact, in 2008, there was a very interesting phenomena that world trade was growing at a rate faster than the growth in the world economy. Then after 2008, we are seeing a decline in commodity prices and many others resulted in the trade is not expanding as fast as the world economy was growing. And then from 2008, we are seeing both declining, world trade as well as global economy. Now the WTO, which is mandated to deal with trade issues, must take active steps, proactive steps to find out how the developing countries can benefit from global trade. The global trade is very skewed, and when the commodity prices fall, the burden of that goes into some of the developing countries. Let's take Africa. The 54, 55 countries in Africa, some of them, there are some large economies like Egypt or South Africa or Nigeria, but then there are very small countries. Though the continent is one and there are so many countries, some of those countries export only one product. And if the commodity prices fall, then that one product which is actually sustaining the economy will collapse. This has happened. So therefore, the WTO should actually work on reforming the trade policies of the world to ensure that world trade has to grow, and growth of world trade will lead to growth in the world economy, which in turn will benefit all the countries. But that has to be equitable. And that has to be transparent. It cannot be just a cartel, as it happens in case of oil, which they keep pushing up the price. And there can be another cartel of buyers. Here is a sellers cartel. The buyers cartel will push the prices down and the countries will suffer. So we must ensure that this cartelization has to be properly reformed. In individual countries, have competition commission. There's a pan EU competition commission. What about a global competition commission to ensure that this cartelization doesn't happen? We never thought about the issue, but we must focus on it now. When we're talking about kickstarting the world economy, which is very necessary. And that will not happen without global cooperation. So we must focus on such issues. Second important issue would be the supply chains, which is related to economy again. So one is a trade, other is global value chains, global supply chains, which again has resulted into growth in global economy phenomenally. And actually the world has benefited through these supply chains because the cost of ultimate manufactured product has gone down thanks to these supply chains. Supply chains again cannot be hoodwinked. We should not misuse the supply chains for political gains. And the geopolitics, which is influencing the supply chains, also must be immunized against that. And we must focus on that adequately.
Hello?
When we are going to progress on
Hello?
working, hello? When we are going to progress on
Hello?
making the world economy grow. The climate change, we are going to have COP26 soon in UK again, and we are all looking forward to working on finding out how we'll be able to address it now, because after the huge euphoria when we had Copenhagen, we have seen a declining interest in climate change at a time when the climate change threat is becoming more and more severe. So we must align both. Response should be adequate enough to the threat that is posed, and we must work on this. I think as we go along, we'll have to work on finding out building blocks for this global cooperation. We must find out how we can work together in a way that we must focus adequately on making sure that how each and every country can help each other. Take in a neighborhood, Nepal, a small country with very brave people, very hardworking people, very talented people, have helped the world wherever they've gone, whether for security purposes, whether they're army, or wherever they're gone and offered their labor, not only in India, all over the world. And they have been very successful. But that economy is dependent on this kind of global cooperation. In fact, Himalayas, which is, of course, shared by many countries, but the highest peak of Himalaya and the highest peak of the world is in Nepal. The Himalaya is under severe threat because of climate change. It is going to affect tourism of Nepal. The water security will be affected because that's the water tower of the world. These global supply chains I talked about will affect country like Nepal more. The pandemic, which is actually has affected Nepal significantly, like it affected many other countries, including India, is also going to pose challenges. So all three issues I mentioned, there are many more, whether it's global economy, whether it's healthcare global, or whether it's climate change, all three are affecting countries like Nepal, smaller countries like Nepal, which are already waiting to be part of the global economy for a long time. So in fact, the pandemic has pushed more people into poverty. If the economic decline will push more people into poverty, and there will be more climate refugees, which will also make people poorer, because the natural resource on which so many people survive are going to be adversely affected, including the biodiversity as a result of climate change. So the whole international cooperation must be based on supporting countries which needs more support and more help. They needed it already, and now they need it even more. So we must develop new models of global cooperation in which countries like Nepal will benefit as much as others, of course, but Nepal, I just mentioned, because it's my neighborhood, my country which I love, and therefore we must find out ways of working together. That's the responsibility of countries, even in G20 grouping. In fact, in G20, my prime minister and we always say this, that G20 has a responsibility for not those who are in the grouping, but those who are not. Those who are in the room must think about those who are outside the room and make sure that we create a world far better than what it is today without ignoring the concerns and the priorities and the challenges faced by the smaller countries like Nepal and others. So I hope we'll be able to take effective steps. India stands firmly united behind all these major issues. We'll be hosting G20 in the course of next few months, actually, 2023. And Dr. Jaiswal, I want to congratulate you for organizing this very interesting and very important event, which is so well participated and many countries are taking interest. That shows the faith each one of them has in your leadership and your organizing ability. But let me promise you one thing. I can just see my dear friend Manju Puri coming in, Ambassador Puri, who is one of a very distinguished diplomat, one of the finest. And I think, therefore, when he's here, I should end my speech because I think he can speak far better than what I can. And I therefore congratulate Dr. Jaiswal to you once again and thank all my other speakers. As I was saying, I was very happy to see my dear friend Dinesh Gunawardane, very, very dear family friend. So he's a foreign minister, but for me, he's my personal dear family friend. And so was my Tom, who was a Prime Minister Abe's advisor and very dear family friend again. So very happy to see so many of them. Dr. Jaiswal, congratulations to you. Let me assure you one thing. Anytime you think we can offer you some help, we are always there for you. Nepal, and people, when I went to Nepal as Commerce Minister, I went there as Railway Minister, I went there many times. People ask me, Nepal and India, who is a younger brother and who is an older brother? I see you are asking a wrong question. No one is younger, nobody is older. We are twin brothers. So therefore, there is nothing like elder or younger. We are all together. And as twin brothers, it's my responsibility to, and when you feel the pain, we also feel the pain as the twin brothers would feel. And we'll be happy when you become happy. And that's what the twin brothers' job is. So we look forward to the prosperity and development in Nepal, like we aspire and hope for all the smaller developing countries in the world should develop more as they have missed out in the past from this old trading system, old economic system, and now today because of poor healthcare system in the world. So global governance must focus on such countries, such issues more as we go along. And India stands firmly with you to make that happen. Thank you very much. God bless you all.